Hello, welcome to episode 3 of the Swimrun Show podcast. First off, guys, before we crack on with the a very special guest this week, apologies for my audio quality on my recording. It's a little bit in and out occasionally. The good news is, though, Michael Lemmel's audio was perfect, and he speaks a lot more sense than I do. So that is great news. Yeah, I met Michael first time in OtillO 2014, and it's been quite a journey for Swimrun and for Michael and Mats and OtillO and the whole shebang. So here we are. It's 2024. A few things have changed, but let's just see what Michael's up to at the moment. A little bit about the past and quite a good portion about the future. So yeah, here we go. Michael Lemmel, the Godfather of swimrun. Okay, so we have someone who perhaps doesn't need an introduction in the swimrun world. It's Michael Lemmel over in Sweden. Hello, Michael. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It's nearly the end of January, and the days are getting longer. So,
well, I think we're in a place where we really understand that makes a big difference.
Yeah. What time does it? You've got 5, 6 hours of daylight?
No, in Stockholm now, I'd say we have maybe 8 hours of daylight. So we're okay.
Okay.
But it's been worse. But I realized this morning that I have some outdoor lights that are on a timer, and I realized that I need to change the timer because it was still lit up when it was light this morning. So it's always a good sign that you can change the timer.
That is a good sign.
Yeah. So where are you based?
In Wales, Abu Dhabi, on the west coast of Wales.
Fantastic.
At the moment. Yeah.
So you're swimming still?
I haven't actually swum this year, but yeah, it's. I'm going to start training very soon.
Good.
So yeah. For those who don't know Michael, he co-founded the OtillO swimrun race, former adventure racer, and a lot of experience in swimrun, of course. So, Michael, you founded the race back in 2006, and you've left the organization now, and you're working on a long distance trail in the archipelago in Sweden. Is that right?
Yeah, like you said, Mats and I started OtillO in 2006. We had a company together since 1995. And in January last year, we both left OtillO. And since then, we haven't worked together, which is the first time since 1995 that we haven't worked together. So we're constantly looking for future joint projects that we could do together. But what I'm doing since, I would say, last year is I'm involved. I've been commissioned by, let's call it the Stockholm region to make it less complicated, to create a hiking trail throughout the Stockholm Archipelago. And outside of Stockholm, for those who don't know, there's 30,000 islands, and some are small, some are big. And in total, I think we'll be able to put together 270 kilometers of trail, between 250 and 270 kilometers of trail. And it needs to be done by the end of October.
Right.
So it's been a bit of work, working with landowners and all of that. And I'm responsible for the physical and digital implementation of the whole project.
Right. So will the 270 kilometers, will it be trail marked, like a bit like in the Alps, some of the routes there?
It will be trail marked, and very clearly so. I'm actually very happy with the ribbons. It's a blue bottom and a yellow top, so to symbolize the sea and the sun. And in the middle, there's reflective for the reflective horizon, but it's reflective coloring, which means that we're actually doing 250 to 270. It's not really, we're not done yet, so it will be somewhere around there of trail, kilometers of trail, which will be possible at night too with a headlamp, because it will be reflective coloring throughout the whole archipelago, which will be quite unique, I'd say.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I hadn't thought of this. I've just sprung to mind. Will it cover any of the OtillO race routes?
It will be on some of. Yes, you will see it on some of the OtillO trail. One of my original ideas was that we were going to make the OtillO swimrun course into a trail, but there's so many complications with that I don't think it's going to happen, because there is a national park that's being created in the area, and I think that's going to complicate things in the future.
Okay. And one water race, would it I know they changed their checkpoints. So yeah, the one water race, guys, is a long distance adventure race style, around about 250 kilometers, swimming and running, and through the night. So yeah, would it go on any of that route perhaps?
Well, it has the same, I would say, starting point, because that's the northernmost part of the Stockholm archipelago, and It has the same finishing point. And I know they will for sure benefit of some of these markings. But I think, well, it will help them at night, because I'm not building any new trails, so to speak. I'm using existing trails and putting them together, of which some could be, I would say, animal trails or old trails. So it will be beneficial to anyone in the archipelago covering that distance in the future, depending on how they then want to create their race course. They could, I mean, there's, like I said, there's 30,000 islands, so you can avoid a lot of it if you want to.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited about this project now. So with the shall I just wait till the website comes out? I'm just wondering if on the website you're going to put out there, will it end at the water? I guess it will, because they're islands, and but it's not going to suggest any water-based activity. It's just a land-based trail, isn't it?
Well, how do I say? Let's call it, in this first phase, it's a land-based trail.
Okay.
Then you can, of course, attach different values to it for the future. And on OtillO, for example, there was a trail that's now been integrated into this trail. And a couple of years ago, we made a swimrun trail out of that same trail, where you have entry and exit points that are clearly marked. And using the same logic, you could do the same in some of the areas of this trail.
Okay.
So there's, how would I say, there's some areas that are more apt for it than others, where doesn't bother landowners in the same way, or where there's a small archipelago attached to the main island, or whatever, to make it safe. Because if it's not monitored, it needs to be safe.
Yeah.
But yes.
Okay, so sounds like lots of potential for stuff outside, which sounds great. Well,
for sure, the word "stuff" is the right word.
Okay, so that's brilliant. That sounds very exciting, Michael. And I'm just going to rewind a little bit back to your adventure racing days.
Yes,
and linking that into swimrun. So your experience of adventure racing, what did you take from that, and bring it into swimrun?
Well, I think Mats and I, the whole idea behind OtillO from the very beginning was that it was, and it all comes from adventure racing, I would say, is that we wanted to make a fluid motion through nature, where whatever obstacle is in the way is something you just move through. You just move around it, sort of like a river. And we felt that there was a seamless way of moving through the archipelago. And I'd say it took a couple of years before that sort of caught on, where people didn't stop at the edge of the water and take off their shoes and put it in some pack and all of that crap, and instead just started moving through the transitions and making it sort of a part of the activity. That, and the fact that we from the very beginning made it a team activity where you share the whole emotional and physical experience together with somebody else, where you're interdependent of each other. That also comes from adventure racing, where your experience becomes so much more than just a physical performance, because it's something where you have to take part of somebody else's highs and lows, and that person has to take part of your highs and lows, and hopefully you can actually take care of them together too. So that all came from our whole adventure racing sort of upbringing, I would call it. Then, of course, swimrun has evolved as it has because of the participants, I would say, and us adjusting rules and race courses according to how the sport has evolved and sort of grown on its own. But I mean, you can still say that today there's a lot of similarities to adventure racing.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it comes to how would you call it, the organization, the bigger organization of the sport, I mean, that was the whole purpose of us building a series of races that would lead to a final and so on. It was to sort of set standard of rules and with insurance and a standard of races that there would be some sort of a cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I personally felt that there was no need for federations or sort of old structures of sport. Today, I would say that I think that there needs to be some sort of a hybrid between what there is and what there has been, because I mean, France is a perfect example where you have a massive growth of the sport, and I would say it's thanks to the federation getting involved and bringing more people to the sport. Now, the sport is, federated sport is probably not as, how would I call it, as adventurous as it was from the beginning. But, I think there's place for all.
Yeah. And how did the French approach you guys at OtillO, or did they just start doing it?
No, I was involved in the beginning with the French Federation. They had some focus groups where I was involved and discussed with them, and was quite clear from the beginning that I didn't think that it was something that we would be, or OtillO would be, involved in. And I know that OtillO still is not involved in the federation. There's some sort of a, how would you call it, coexistence between the two, and I still think that the sport would benefit from being organized on a national and international level, outside of physical brands or financial, or how would you call it, commercial brands.
Yeah. Okay. So I know. I mean, I've got so many questions, Michael. But
go for it.
So Sweden, obviously, started in Sweden, and then your first, we'll say overseas, not non-Swedish race was Engadin, I believe, in
Yes.
2014.
14.
How did that come about? Just branching out to another country.
Well, by 2012 or 2013, we realized that we had so much interest in OtillO, and that we had a lot more people applying to be part of the race than, because in 2012 we were, it was only OtillO plus 2 or 3 other races in Sweden. And we felt that we needed to some sort of capitalize and make space for the people who didn't get a spot at OtillO. And the reason why they didn't get a spot was logistically it was impossible to have that many people. So in 2013, we started OtillO Swimrun, which is where the original bet was actually made. And that was, for us, the natural place to start with an additional race in the spring. Now, spring in Sweden is usually quite cold in the water, so that was in May from the beginning, and then it's sort of slid into June where it is now, because the water temperature is a little bit more manageable. But in the beginning, first year, I think we had 40 teams that participated, but for 2014, that grew to over 100 and whatever teams. But also at the same time, we started looking at where could we go and show that swimrun is not something where you need an archipelago, because we didn't want to we realized that if the sport was going to grow on an international level, people needed to understand it wasn't something that was connected to having islands and sort of the freedom of moving on other people's land as you have in Sweden. So that's why we started thinking of, okay, what's the, how would you call it, picture perfect negative of islands in Sweden. And in 2001, Mats and I had participated in the Adventure Racing World Championship that started in St. Moritz. And we remembered that it was nice. And Staffan, who is now the race director at OtillO, spent some summers there. And he said he had been training for OtillO in that environment. And we started looking at maps and playing around. And Mats and I went and approached the city or the town of St. Moritz, and they weren't interested, but we managed to then talk with the town of Silvaplana, and they said right away that, yes, this is something that's good for us. So in 2014, we launched the race in Engadin, and to show that you could be anywhere. You ran between the lakes instead of swimming between the islands. And we also wanted to be in a place where the images would really make people say, really make you stop and think, what is that? And to have people running in wetsuits on mountain trails with glaciers behind was sort of the perfect backdrop to create that reaction. And luckily enough, we had a fantastic day, very beautiful, and we had some awesome images from Nadia and Jacob at the time that we managed to push out more or less anywhere in the world. So it was a successful way of launching the sport outside of Sweden.
Yeah, it's great. A popular race now, and great imagery, and location-wise, a lot of, I suppose, quite a few countries around can drive there too, so that helps as well. Yeah. So then, I think, was it? He had 1,000 lakes in Germany. I never got to that one. And then Croatia, Scilly, Malta, Catalina.
And Cannes in France.
And Cannes, of course, yes.
Yeah.
They're probably the most popular one.
Yeah, at the moment, I would say it is.
Yeah. So
perfectly placed, in the early autumn or mid-autumn, when people are sort of getting sick of dark weather and rain in Sweden. That was sort of the purpose, to put it in at a time when there's still sun. And I'd say that the last 3 years have been extremely lucky, because the weather can be absolute shit there as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and then Isles of Scilly is coming back. I went to the inaugural edition back in 2016, I think it was, and Wes from Silly 60 is hopefully, it looks like that's back on again. Are you going to? Are you still swim running? Are you tempted to have a swim run this year?
I'm planning a few races. Yes. At the moment, when it comes to that part of the year, since I need to be finished with the trail by the end of October, and it's not a soft deadline; it's a hard deadline.
Right.
It depends on where I am in the production. But if there's any race that I'd love to go back and do, I did the sprint in the Isles of Scilly a couple of years ago. But if there's any race I'd love to do is the long course, because for me it's without a doubt my favorite race course out of all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an endorsement.
Well, it is. I think it. I mean, it's spectacular place, historical. It's a place where where we at least would not go. I had no idea such a place existed when I saw the video of Roland Kelly that he posted. I was like, I texted him or sent him a Facebook message right away after I saw his original video when he was fiddling around Tresco there. And I said, you have to tell me where you are because I really don't understand. Mm-hmm. And he told me, and we started chatting. And he was sort of the instigator in us putting on that race. And I love the location. I love the people. It's really one of my happy places in the world, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
So if you don't know what to do in the end of August, that's my biggest recommendation. I know Wes will do a fantastic job of putting it together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
pressure's on, Wes.
Yeah. So going back, so as a group of race directors in the UK, Wes being one of them, I probably feel like we're going over ground that you and Mats might have gone over several years ago. It springs to mind. I wasn't there, but you went to the triathlon show in London, I think, in 2017.
Yes.
Was that
I was there a couple of times, I think.
Okay.
Twice, I think I was there, if I'm not wrong.
Was that a stage of you got to a point and you're just trying to grow numbers and reaching out to triathletes rather than, I suppose, adventure racers, or I don't know, was it just getting the word out to as many people as possible?
Well, I strongly believe in, if you want to grow something, you need to get outside your regular gene pool, because otherwise it sort of becomes incestuous, and in the end it dies on itself. And we, for a couple of years, we really tried to put ourselves in so many different locations and put the brand and what we were doing in front of people that were, how do you say, where the step to participating in a swimrun race wasn't massive. Mm-hmm. And obviously the first idea comes to triathletes who are used to, let's call it open water swimming and running, and teaming up with Norseman was, I think it's a good, it was a good connection with us where it's sort of off the beaten track and thinking a little bit outside the box.
Okay, so you teamed up with Norseman. What was that? What was that teaming?
Well, we had a let's call it an emotional partnership where we talked about both events. They talked about us in their communication, and we talked about them in our communication, and we sent swimrun racers to Norseman, and they it was a good exchange, and we had a really Doug Oliver, who was the race director at the time and one of the original instigators of that event. Is a brilliant man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, the UK race directors are going to the National Outdoor Expo at the end of March.
Oh, great.
In Birmingham. Yes, as a team. So, and with Fred and John from swimrun.com. So we're not sure exactly. We're hoping there might be some swim running actually going on. But yeah, more to come on that. So yeah, hopefully that'll do, because I feel like 2017, 18, it did boost numbers a little bit. Certainly your locations were growing, and in the Brecca was growing as well in the UK at that period. So I don't know if that was a coincidence, but yeah.
Well, I'd say that the growth in 17, 18, 19 was quite big, and I would say that part of it was that there wasn't that many other races, but also I think it was in the right phase, and for us, I think 2020 would have become our next big step. After Catalina, we were in a really good position, and everything looked very, very, very good, and the pandemic completely killed us as a race provider, and I think it killed a lot of other race providers. I think it might have been good for the sport, but that's another thing, because people didn't have races to go to, or very few, and so they went out and trained with friends instead, and brought in a lot of new blood to the sport, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly shook things up, didn't it? The old pandemic. So I've got a question here from Richard. I've had a few questions from the listeners, and they're all kind of. We've touched on one of them, but they're all around the same theme. So this one from Richard. It was so sad to see you and Mats leave OtillO. Have the wounds now healed? What will you do next? That's assuming there are wounds.
Well, I mean, both Mats and I had worked 17 years with OtillO. So no matter if it was by choice or not, there's always a wound. It was our passion child, and I would say that we had poured our lives into OtillO and the brand and everything that we sort of stood for, and it always takes time to sort of deal with that. I think I had a bit of an advantage because I felt that it might be going that way, and so I had the chance to mentally and emotionally sort of see where I wanted to go with the whole thing. So I was sort of done when I made my decision. But of course, you're affected, and I would say that what I miss the most is the connection with all the people. I would say that the feeling of a big group of people with racers and race organization volunteers and so on, all coming together for an event and making something very special happen over a day or two, and then it all going away is something that, when you have been part of it and you realize that it's something which you cannot do without the other, it's a very special feeling, and I would say that is the feeling that I miss the most. When it comes to the future, it depends a little bit what it's got in its fold. I would say Mats and I we're not allowed to put on any races until April 2025, so we're locked in for another, I would say, 14, 15 months. And depending on where I think where we are in our lives and what possible opportunities there are out on the let's call it the swimrun market. Where there is an opening, we might do something, or we might not. We might do. We're constantly talking about what we could do and what we could not do, and we might do one-off races, or I don't know. It's also. I think we were very successful in what we did, and we managed to build a fantastic community, and that community has carried our legacy forward. And we were fortunate we didn't have any deaths in any events or anything like that. And it makes you think if you should get yourself into that again or not, if you should just leave it as it is and maybe look at something else. But I think time would tell. I really miss the swimrun community more than anything else, and I think the same is for Mats. We just need to do the right thing at the right time. It's sort of a timing thing where OtillO was at the right time in let's say time in general, and it depends on what happens in the world in the next year.
Okay.
Yeah. But I, of course, have a million ideas, and so does Mats.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael and Mats definitely put their heart and soul into the races. Everyone who took part saw that firsthand. And was it a decision you and Mats made in January, kind of together?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think we need to get into that for the fairness of others, but it was somewhat of a forced decision.
Okay, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
With regard to something that felt like it was unique, or at least it doesn't happen in the UK races, was the participant insurance for the OtillO races. And I'm interested as a race director. Was that an easy setup with an insurance company to provide? To have the option. Well, I think it was mandatory to get this participant insurance to cover you for all the races. And I think it was quite a good policy as well, wasn't it? Comprehensive.
Yeah, it is a very good policy, and I mean, we spoke with an insurance broker who we put forth the different criteria that we felt were important, sort of to balance against a let's call it a national license, a federated license or whatever, because in federated license you have an insurance that's included. Mm-hmm. And this was sort of to put forth an insurance so that we took away a lot of the risk, a financial risk, I would say. And I think it's possible to do with any race. It all comes down to how much time and how much money do you as a race director want to spend on putting up different criteria. For us, this was what we did, and we put on a series. It was important to do it that way. Mm-hmm. In Sweden, for example, if we were to put on a race in Sweden, which was a one-off race, there's a national insurance, sports insurance, that you can connect your race to, that the participants need to have, and it's sort of solved. But this was sort of as we had so many international participants, we had to find a way to mitigate that risk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I suppose it was part of that hybrid idea between some kind of governing body and.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think that, for example, if you as UK race directors, if you have some sort of an organization, which I know that at least there's a drift going in that direction, you could all sort of get together and find a similar insurance without lots of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just need to enforce that the racers have it. And the only way to do that is to say that, okay, well, we tell you that you need to have an insurance, and that covers your race, your start fee. And if you don't have the insurance, it's on you, or you can't ask us for the money back if you're injured or whatever, because it's, the financial risk or hemorrhaging your margin is catastrophic.
Yeah. So in the UK, there's, I suppose, kind of linked to that. There's been a boom in the smaller races, the solo races, and in the mid 2015, 2016, 17, the imagery from OtillO was amazing, awesome, inspiring. Probably a really good asset, as you probably appreciate. But from people I've spoken to coming into it who are more not adventure racers, they want to try it. It put some people off those images, whereas for me and my type, it kind of made us want to do it. So, did you guys make a decision, because you went to sprint and experience and solo races? I guess it was purely you wanted more numbers at the end. You needed a starting point, because not everybody has come from Ironman or adventure racing, endurance. So I guess you just wanted that flow from entry level upwards.
Well, I think the purpose was to take away hurdles or reduce the step in being part of our race series, and because we felt that if someone participated in our events, it was on us to provide high enough quality that you would want to come back, because we wanted to be the benchmark of the sport, and to take away as many hurdles as possible was first to introduce the sprint and the experience, and then to introduce the sprint, the solo series, because you can see it today in some countries. There's a lot of solo racers, and in other countries there is not. And it's one cultural, but it's also a way to finding a future potential partner. And if you, for example, want to race and your partner cannot, then it gives you still the opportunity to race. And of course, there was also, I think that's one thing that people need to realize, that putting on races is not a massive money-making machine. It's, you really need to, as we call it in Swedish, flip the coins around so that you manage to get by. You take a lot of financial risk, and it was a way to potentially increase the margins and lessen the financial risk. And it's I used to work for Patagonia in the 90s, and one of the most a lot of things stuck in my brain since that time. But one of the things that Yvon Chouinard said was, when people complain about Patagonia making money, was that, if we don't make money, we won't be around. And if we don't make money, we can't donate money to different environmental organizations and grassroots organizations. And I think that there shouldn't be a stigma around people trying to make money on putting on races, because it is not a cash machine in any way. It certainly is not, and people need to realize that there's a lot of costs involved.
Yeah, it's certainly not easy. It's a labor of love for several years, I think.
It
feels like, it feels like
forever, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you start measuring the amount of time that you put into something, then it just becomes ridiculous.
Definitely, I could see that.
So to answer the question quickly, was that we introduced sprint and experience in solo, one to minimize the step or to take away as many hurdles as possible to be part of our organization instead of choosing something else, and two, to possibly increase margins.
Yeah, makes sense. So I have not a particular battle in my head, but it's the OtillO original and the World Series races were so special. There's almost, as we grow, as swimrun grows, assuming it's going to grow more and more, will there be something lost potentially? Because it started so big with 70 plus kilometers, as a first race, as opposed to other races like triathlon, I think started, as a kind of an Olympic style distance. So although we're going forward, do you think we'll lose anything in the future, that adventure style and the whole community? Like the fact you can only have 160 teams at the World Championships is ridiculous based on other race series. But there's obviously very good reasons for that. Do you think we think we might lose something as we grow?
Well, I think I think anyone who looks at the sport from the outside realizes that there's, at the moment, it's just a very narrow part of the total spectrum that is being fulfilled, and I think there's a big potential in the broad spectrum, and where we'll see shorter races, we'll see city races. I think Super League and triathlon is a good example. But I also think we'll see stage races and long distance races. I wouldn't say like One Water, but similar to One Water. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of things to cover, depending on how much time people have and how much time people put into it. And I know that a lot of people who are training for the World Series races and want to make it serious, it of course, as the level grows, it demands more and more of people. And to professionalize sport, I think there will be different kinds of circuits. Some will be less of the adventure and more based around performance. And I think we'll see some more adventure style events that will be more adventure than it has been. Mm-hmm. I certainly would think that there's room for all of that, because people coming to the sport evolve too, and if you want to be at one end of the spectrum or the other is sort of an evolutionary journey.
Yeah, good point. Because I suppose that's true
sorry, the last thing I wanted to say is that I think it's the community that's going to drive sort of where it takes you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's felt like that's happening in the UK definitely with the shorter ones, the solo, and there's interesting different kind of ideas with Survivor, which is you get knocked out, and I've got one going in Liverpool, the Eliminator. Yeah. So that style.
Yeah.
And then Yotta in France is similar style. So it's.
And there's a backyard event in Sweden. There's a lot of. 1852 is a really cool event in Sweden where it's sort of a backyard concept, knockout concept. I think there's lots of really fun things that one can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you see it in trail running, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You see how trail running sort of evolves over time.
It's running. it's strange with the obviously you've got road running, track running, trail running, mountain running, sky running.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And you have different, series and different dominant partners in different spaces. I think. Yeah. I really don't think. Of course, OtillO has a huge advantage at the moment, but I'm sure that there will be other brands that will pop up and be really successful as well.
Now, coming back to something Richard asked, I know we did cover a little bit with the long distance trail that you're creating in Sweden, but I know you can't organise races till April 2025. It's swimrun
races.
Okay, yes. Do you think you might? So I'm just interested in that the potential of you and Mats organising swimrun races in the future. But
I'm sure we will.
Okay, good, perfect.
Yeah, in one way or another.
Great, that is excellent news. So for guys who haven't experienced Michael and Mats races, Michael or Mats would always greet you at the end with a hug or a handshake, usually a hug actually. And yeah, you could see them out on the course. I remember in Croatia when the conditions were tough, and we were just going to bed the night before the race. And Michael was going out with a rucksack and a head torch just to change some of the course to make it more manageable and better for the participants. So it was the work they put in over the years was phenomenal, and it was evident as well. So thank you, Michael and Mats.
Oh, thank you. I mean, like I said, it's a passion project. And if you have raced yourself in the past, you know that some things are more important than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so let's go back to adventure. Are you involved with the adventure racing scene anymore, at all?
No, I'm not. It intrigues me still. I'm just not sure that my body will survive it anymore. I'd like to think that it would, but. I mean, it is tough, and it was tough, and I think it has affected us. We were involved for 13 years, and it's quite brutal on the body.
Yeah, lack of sleep as well as exertion,
among other things.
Yeah. So, because I feel like adventure racing in the UK, at least, it's relatively small. James Thurlow, who used to organise quite a lot of the races in the UK, stopped. It felt similar, very similar, a passion project completely. And I can see parallels, and I'm just wondering if we, as swimrun organisers here, can learn from adventure racing more.
Well, I would say that the biggest difficulty with adventure racing, and I think this is something that one really needs to keep in mind, is that for most people it is absolutely impossible to grasp. And if you don't understand what people are doing, then it makes no sense. And I think already OtillO, the World Championship course, where it's 70 plus kilometers, it's beyond what most people understand. And most people don't run and swim for, let's say, an average of 10 plus hours, and they can't even imagine what it entails. And then if you then go to adventure racing, where you add on days, where you're biking and paddling and so on and so forth throughout the night, and days on end, it just becomes hard to grasp. I mean, people have a hard time going to work for a week, where you eat, sleep, and have some free time. And when you realize that adventure racing is very little eating, very little sleeping, and no free time, you're just constantly pushing. So, I mean, to me, the message is clear. I think for people, or for the sport of swimrun to grow, it needs to be understandable for the majority of the people, because some way it needs to be embraced by the regular community, so that more people want to try it out and figure it out. And it also is a way to generate sponsorship or whatever if people understand what it means. Mm-hmm. So that's one part of it. And I also think that keeping it simple, being not too much gear, is a key too, because adventure racing, you need a bike, you need to spend a lot of time on the bike, you need a kayak at least, you need to paddle a lot, and so on and so forth. And most people don't have either the financial means or the space to keep all of this. So it sort of adds up, and I think that's why there's not a massive growth in the adventure racing scene.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so on that growth kind of flow, could you see a question from Terry? Could you see swimrun at the Olympics one day?
Well, it won't be in the format that it is today, but it would be, I mean, how cool would it be to be able to hand out a medal at the Olympics? I mean, where we sort of saw the opportunity in a story that was told in 2005 to us, and that we then created a race that then created a sport. And if that then evolves to the point that there is an Olympic discipline, and before I die, which hopefully isn't in the next couple of days, I will. I and Mats could hand out a medal at the Olympics. I mean, how it would be fantastic. But it would certainly not be in the format that it is today. I'm going back to what I just said, that it needs to be in a format that people can understand and is tangible. And also, I mean, today everything is so media driven that you can make a media format out of it.
Yeah. So Team GB, get training. Did you ever reach out to over here in the UK, like the Brownlee brothers, Alistair, the top triathletes? Or I guess it's too much of a risk for them to try a swim run. I don't know.
No, I think they would be very happy to participate, but I think their careers and their racing is so regimented, and I think that the opportunity to participate in a swim run event, and I think we tried via, in the old days when the algorithms in Instagram and so on, Facebook were a lot more open. It made more sense trying to try to get a hold of them. And so we chased a little bit, but we never sort of put the hook in. But I think that the timing for them would have to be in the late autumn, after their season's over, because I mean their livelihood depends on not injuring themselves and doing the right thing. And I mean, I totally understand that. That's why we see ex-pro triathletes coming to the sport instead of at the time racers.
Yeah. So, good. This Max. So I spoke to Max on episode 1, and he mentioned about, and in fact, Stefan, the current new race director for OtillO, mentioned he wants to make it professional in terms of, or at least prize money, where you can. You can actually compete and win some money and pay your bills. But Max's point was he thinks OtillO should focus the resources either on the solo or the team and not spread across all the resources across lots of different races. So what's your take on Max's point there, Michael?
Being what? Not doing sprint and experience races?
Well, no, it was more... He was talking about I don't know what the prize money is. He felt that there should be one racing class, and it should either be the team and the solos still happens, and all the others still happen, but it's not. You're not getting the prize money. The top tier of the sport is the team.
Well, I think that's how it is at the moment. But I don't know what they have changed, and I'm really not interested either. I think I look at what has been, and I don't want to get emotionally involved in what is, or what will be. But I think the ambition from us was always that we need to grow the sport, grow the base, so that we can broaden the uptake, and so that the point can become pointier. And there needs to be enough racers to professionalize it. And you look at it right now. If Max and Hugo, it makes no sense to make races where they don't have any competition or very little competition. I mean, that how would you call it? The tip needs to be wide enough so that it's not sure who will win at every race. And I'm not saying that it's sure, because there's a lot of things that can happen. But the last couple of years have shown that there's very few that can actually compete with them. And that, in my mind, means that the sport needs to get broader to be able to get there. So I think that maybe in 10 years' time, that might be the case, but I really don't think that it's in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even if you throw more money in there.
Yeah.
Because then you might get some, how would you call it? You might get some, one-shot racers that come, but I don't think OtillO will ever be able to compete against, the top prize money in triathlon or whatever. So I mean, it makes no sense for the top triathletes to sort of put themselves at that risk.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. I might be completely wrong, and things might change immediately, but
no, that makes sense to me. One thing that was controversial with Ironman, and I know you don't really want to talk about what might come, but it just sprung to mind, where they have the male world championships separate to the female now. I mean, I'm not sure that was popular, but it was all about, I'm guessing it was all about money, and trying to maximize participation at the top, because I guess Hawaii had limits, just like OtillO and Sandam have limits on numbers, but they're a lot smaller in Sweden. But who knows what will happen, as you say.
I think that would be absolute idiocy, but like I said, and I think that I think you lose a lot of the magic with Ironman, where you separate the men and the women at Kona. I think it's shit, but that's my personal opinion. What they choose to do is their business. Don't think I want to get involved in that one.
Good. Let's leave that.
But coming to that, I think that, in the future, there might be another world championship. I mean, if there is a federation that grows, and there might be a federated world championship, and who knows what that will be.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's, like I said, there's only a small part of the spectrum that's being used at the moment, and I think that there's a lot more to be done, depending on who's driving the agenda within the unions and the federation, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's the My Swimrun Championship, which is growing slowly, which is another project going on, the Swimrun World. So it's good to see lots of different things going across Europe and America. And Australia, all over the place, South America. So, Michael, I think I've kept you long enough.
You can It's fine. If you want to continue, go ahead. If you got anything.
Well,
you're probably sick of me by now.
No,
the listeners are.
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, I'm as a race director and a participant in a lot of your races. I've got so much respect for you, and I've learned a lot from you. And it was I was telling, I think Max or Simon, that when I did OtillO in 2014, and I was just like blown away how amazing it was. So if there's anyone not sure, listening to this, not sure about entering a swimrun race, I mean, that it might not be the same as OtillO, but you finish and you just want more. And I did it the following year, and the following year was even better, because it was wavy and rough. And I don't think OtillO, I've never done the same course either, which is awesome. So yeah, they're probably sick of me now talking.
I don't think so either.
But yeah, just thanks a lot, Michael, over the years, and I'd really
thank you for the trust.
No, not well. I know there's a lot of UK guys and across Europe, obviously, but UK listeners that would love to see you again, whenever it is.
Thank you.
Or whenever it is. So, yeah, hopefully we will see you, and maybe at the Olympics in a few years' time.
Well, hopefully in silly.
Oh yes.
I mean, I'd love to do that. I think it would be so much fun to do. I just need to get my shit together, I guess.
You got a goal now. You got a target, and is your favourite course. So there we go.
I'll be doing Rockman, I think, too, this year. So.
Oh yeah, because you did it last. Did you do it last year?
Yeah, I did. I just need to figure out if my body will handle another 20K at the back end and a month earlier water. But I think I'm on the track to go there anyway.
Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Michael. And,
Thank you.
Might see you in Rockman. Might see you in Silly.
I would love to. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, and keep in touch.
Will do.
Ciao.
Well, there we go, guys. Michael Lemmel has such a broad range of experience. We could chat all day. If you haven't kind of picked up on the whole history of OtillO, there's a great video kind of describing the story. I've put it in the show notes, so it's a YouTube video, and it just gives a little bit of background from day one towards 2021. So yeah, loads of history there, so that's good. The overriding message, I think, there was get your shit together, guys, and start entering these races, because it's January's gone. Let's get going. Some breaking news on that topic. We've got breaking news here from Gower. There's going to be a swimrun Gower in South Wales on the 29th of June. So a course that used to happen. I think I did the 2018 edition. Great course. I think it was the last time I got lost on a swimrun race. Good times. Didn't really matter in the end. So yeah, lots going on. Get involved. Check out all the races on the swimrun.com website. They've got a pretty good calendar on their UK race calendar, and then the rest of the world too. So yeah, thanks for listening again, guys. And yeah, see you out there.